The movie begins, and we meet a student named Yu-Soo. Yu-Soo is a smart and ideal student. He wasn't just getting the highest grades, in fact, he's very polite. And one day, a student named Chan transfers to the school, and the teacher introduces Chan to the students and says that he's the inter-school boxing champion. And all the students applaud for him, except Yu-Soo, because he wasn't comfortable with Chan at all. And after the teacher left the classroom, Chan hit the student in class, who makes the most problems and establishes himself in the class from the first day. And then he mocks Yu-Soo and lays his hand on him. And this female student intervenes and tries to stop him, but Chan bullies her too. And Yu-Soo grabs Chan's hand and asks him to stop. But Chan punched him in his stomach and keeps hitting him with book and pushes him and tells him, "Looks like you forgot what I did to you back in the day." And it turns out, Chan was bullying Yu-Soo back when they were together in middle school. And when Yu-Soo would complain to the teacher, Chan would hit him again for complaining, and Yu-Soo would keep it to himself out of fear. And now, Yu-Soo's nightmare is back again. And Yu-Soo was lying on the ground in pain and decides to take this pen. And he gets up while he's shaking, and Chan mocks him while calling him a coward. And he grabs Yu-Soo's hand and directs it towards his eyes and challenges him to stab him in his eye. And surprisingly, Yu-Soo actually stabs him in his eye to let out the fear and anger bottled up inside him for years. And the whole class is shocked by what Yu-Soo did, and Chan is holding his eyes and screaming from the pain. And because of what Yu-Soo did, he gets transferred to court, and the case says that Yu-Soo used a weapon and made Chan lose his right eye, and this wasn't self-defense, this is violent assault and attempted murder, and therefore, Yu-Soo is sentenced to go to prison. And Yu-Soo's mother cries over her son, and Yu-Soo never expected that the only time he gets into a fight, he'd go to prison because of it, and his future would be destroyed. And he boards the deportation bus that will take him to prison, and Yu-Soo was going to sit, but a blonde prisoner takes his seat. So Yu-Soo is forced to sit in the last seat next to the most dangerous prisoner. And after they arrived at the prison, the guards take their belongings, and the blonde prisoner, Ha-Joon, meets Yu-Soo and asks him, "What got you into prison?" Yu-Soo told him, "I got in for attempted murder." Ha-Joon gets scared of him and tells him, "I'm sorry I took your seat," and asks him to become friends. And Ha-Joon lies to him and tells him, "I also got into prison for attempted murder." And then, they introduce themselves to their fellow prisoners, and Ha-Joon admits that he got into prison for theft. And an old prisoner starts explaining to them the prison rules. Here, every prisoner has a certain rank, and your strength is what will determine your rank. But if you don't know how to fight, then keep to the side and don't get into any problems. And this prison is controlled by 3 gangs. The first gang is led by someone named Hyab, and he's a former world champion in judo. And the second gang's leader is named John, and he's a huge man, and when he gets angry, he turns into a crazy person. As for the third gang, its leader is Seung, and he appears to be a short man and easy to defeat, but in reality, if he gets into a fight, he breaks anyone. And the old prisoner tells them that before, John and Seung cooperated together and made a trap for Hyab to get him into solitary confinement. And John hit Seung, and when the guard came, they told him that Hyab hit us. And the guard believes them and takes Hyab to put him in solitary confinement. And therefore, there are only 2 gangs now controlling the prison. But there's one prisoner that no one could defeat, and even if the 3 leaders united, they wouldn't be able to defeat him. And that's Dooney, the prisoner who was sitting next to Yu-Soo on the bus. Dooney is the youngest world champion in martial arts. 2 years ago, Dooney was coming home with flowers and gifts for his sister for her birthday. And when he opened the fridge, he found blood on his hand. And he searches for his sister everywhere and finds her dead and drowning in her blood. And the thief appears and chokes Dooney. Poor guy doesn't know who he's dealing with. Dooney grabs him and breaks the table with him. And then he broke his leg. And after seeing his mother's corpse, he gets angry and beats down on the second thief and bangs his head on the iron several times. And a third thief appeared and tried to hit Dooney, but Dooney gave him 1 hit that finished him off. And the 3 thieves died the death they deserved. But Dooney went to prison because of excessive self-defense, and they have something called that in Korea. And Yu-Soo is shocked after all these stories and thinks, how will I stay alive in this terrifying prison? And then the prisoners play soccer, and a player gets injured. And the prisoners make Yu-Soo go in his place. But Yu-Soo didn't know how to play, and by mistake, instead of shooting the ball, he hit John below the belt. And Seung laughs and tells him, "You got yourself into big trouble." And John's men take Yu-Soo to get revenge on him. And Yu-Soo remembers what Chan used to do to him, but he catches a glimpse of Dooney passing by them, and Yu-Soo escapes from them and runs to Dooney and asks him to save him. And John tells Dooney, "Don't interfere, it's better for you." And Dooney was hesitant whether to interfere or not, and in the end he decides to save Yu-Soo and tells tells John, leave the boy alone. And he tells Yu-Soo, come on, let's go. But John provokes Dooney and orders him to stop. And John tries to hit Dooney, but Dooney dodges his attacks and gives him one hit that brought him to the ground. And Yu-Soo looks at Dooney with great respect. And from this day, John keeps focusing on Yu-Soo all the time, and his looks are full of evil. And then Chan comes to visit Yu-Soo in prison and tells him, my career in boxing didn't end because of you, and I also left school. And Yu-Soo apologizes to him, but Chan doesn't accept his apology. And he removes the bandage and tells him, look at my eyes. And Yu-Soo couldn't look at him. And Chan tells him, I'll wait for you to get out of prison so I can get the worst revenge on you. And Yu-Soo cries and begs for mercy. And Chan tells him, I will never forgive you, and leaves him and walks away. And Yu-Soo is living his days in prison in fear and terror because during the day, John threatens him whenever he sees him, and at night, he dreams of Chan's threats. And then, he sees Dooney training in the yard, so he decides to go talk to him. And he goes to thank him for the help, but Yu-Soo didn't have the courage to ask him to teach him fighting. And every day, he tries to talk to him but was scared, until one day, Dooney stops him and tells him, what do you want? And Yu-Soo gets courage and tells him, I want to learn fighting from you, so I can become strong like you. But Dooney refuses, because he doesn't want to use fighting techniques in killing people like Dooney did before. And he leaves him and walks away. But Yu-Soo keeps after him and tells him, I want to live a normal life. I was always running away from any problems so I wouldn't get hit, and I used to hate myself for being weak. But I don't want to run away anymore, and I want to face anyone who bothers me. And Dooney is affected by his words and agrees to train Yu-Soo, but with one condition, that you run 100 laps around the field in 100 minutes, and this is the test I want from you. And Yu-Soo agrees and starts running. But after a while, Yu-Soo gets very tired and his legs hurt him, but he doesn't stop running. And all his bad memories where he gets bullied, he remembers them. And he realizes that this is his only chance to become another person. So he gets encouraged and decides to complete the running. And after the 71st lap, he was very tired and didn't have an ounce of energy left. And he collapses from fatigue and gives up. And Dooney tells him, withdrawal is not shameful. But Yu-Soo pulls himself together and gets up and continues running until he loses consciousness from fatigue. And Dooney runs to him and helps him. And despite failing the test, Dooney agrees to train him. And then Dooney sits with the prison director. And it turns out Dooney's relationship with him is good. So Dooney asks him to transfer Yu-Soo to his cell, and the prison director agrees. And indeed, Yu-Soo goes to his cell. And Dooney orders him to do push-ups to test him. But Yu-Soo does the exercise completely wrong and can't do a single proper rep. And Dooney keeps encouraging him until he did one rep, and he realizes he's very weak. So he does simple exercises with him in the beginning because he can't even do push-ups. And Dooney forces him to commit to daily exercises. And with time, Yu-Soo's strength started to increase, and he became able to lift weights and move with them, and he started doing many proper reps. And Dooney makes him eat more, so his strength increases. And he tells him, food is important just like exercise exactly. And day after day, his level improved greatly and muscles started appearing on him. And Dooney hits him in his stomach so his stomach muscles become stronger. And he makes him lift more weights so his muscles are put under pressure and their size increases. And after they finished the muscle building phase, he started teaching him fighting skills. And he develops his ability to withstand receiving hits. And with time, weak Yu-Soo transformed into a strong boxer, to the point that his fellow prisoners were surprised by the transformation that happened to him. As for Chan, he was walking in the middle of the street, and he's depressed. And there's a car behind him honking at him to pass. And the man in the car curses at him and tells him, move out of the way, man, and such talk. And this bothers Chan, so he ran and broke the car's mirror. And the two get out to hit him, but Chan is the one who hit them and broke their bones. And a gang leader named Yang sees what happened and likes Chan's strength. And he gives him his card and tells him, I want you to work for me. But Chan crumples the card and throws it away. And when Yang saw that his eyes are blinded, he told him, I can treat your eyes and train you and make you stronger than before. And Chan agrees to this. And we go back to Yu-Soo, who was training while reading, and Hyun comes to ask him, why do you train every day? Yu-Soo told him, in the beginning, I wanted to become strong, but with time I enjoyed the training and decided to continue. And Hyun tells him bad news, and that Dooney passed the age of 23. So therefore, he will be transferred to the adult prison. And Yu-Soo gets very upset by this news, to the point that he became distracted in training and not focused. And Dooney is surprised that Yu-Soo is not focused. And Yu-Soo asks him, are you really going to leave the prison? Dooney told him, yeah, I'm going to leave. Did you think I was going to care about you forever? There comes a time when you depend on yourself, so don't waste the time. I'm still here and train. And then Yu-Soo sees prisoners bullying Hyun, so Yu-Soo intervenes and pushes them away from Hyun. And he's able to defend his friend and hits them. And then John orders his men to bring Yu-Soo here by any means because John wants to get revenge on Yu-Soo. And indeed, his men go to talk to him and ask to speak with him privately. And Yu-Soo falls for the trick and agrees. And they bring Yu-Soo to the workshop where John is. And John intends to hit him and get revenge on him. But Yu-Soo apologizes to him for what happened before and apologizes for hitting John's men. And he tells him, they're the ones who hit my friend first. But John doesn't care about his words and hit him on his head. And Yu-Soo managed to dodge John's hit and hit him in his face. And John gets embarrassed that he got hit in front of his men, and he lifts Yu-Soo and throws him on the ground forcefully. But Yu-Soo gets up and wasn't feeling anything, and the two exchange hits. And Yu-Soo brings out the fighting skills he learned, but John controls the fight and beats him down repeatedly. And Yu-Soo bleeds and falls on the ground and collapses. But the prisoners are surprised that he's able to get up again, and he gathered all his strength and managed to hit John and knock him down. And he delivers multiple punches on his face and returns to him every hit he received until John lost consciousness. And Dooney interferes and stops Yu-Soo before Yu-Soo was going to kill him involuntarily. And Dooney was afraid that what happened to him would happen to Yu-Soo. And then the two walk away. On the other side, Chan treated his injured eyes and became more savage and bloodier than before. And the gang leader Yang trusts him greatly and makes him carry out many killing operations. And the next day, Dooney makes a lot of food for Yu-Soo. And then he enters into a real fight with Yu-Soo. But Yu-Soo wasn't fighting seriously and gets defeated easily by Dooney. So Dooney pushes him and orders him to fight for real and focus. And Yu-Soo tries to listen to him but couldn't hit Dooney. And he stops his hand before hitting him in his face. And Dooney tells him, your performance was amazing, but when you fight seriously, or else your enemies will hit you. But nevertheless, I'm proud of you because your performance became better than expected. And he informs him that the training has ended. And it turns out today, Dooney is leaving the prison. And he tells him, bravo to you for enduring the training, because even athletes don't endure the training. You're a talented boy and you have determination. And before he leaves, he tells Yu-Soo, sharks, if they stop swimming, they'll die. So I want you to be like a shark, never stop. And then Dooney leaves, and Yu-Soo can't hold himself from crying because Dooney left a big gap in his heart, and he trains to forget what happened. And then we see one of the prisoners after he got out, and he's currently working for Chan, and he tells Chan that Dooney trained Yu-Soo and made him a strong fighter. And the next day, Chan visits Yu-Soo in prison and asks him, are you training to fight me when you get out? Yu-Soo mocks him and tells him, you're still the same person, you haven't changed. Chan tells him, I'm waiting for the day you get out. And this time, Yu-Soo didn't show fear and wasn't looking at the ground. And then Hyeob gets out of solitary confinement and tells John, everyone in solitary confinement knew that you got hit by Yu-Soo. John lies to him and tells him that Yu-Soo wants to kill you to take your place. And Hyeob believes John's words. And then Yu-Soo meets Sung, and Sung offers him to fight. And he tells him, if you win, I'll do anything you ask me. So Yu-Soo tells him, if I win, you'll stop bullying the weak prisoners. Seung agrees, and they agree on the fight date. And then Yu-Soo goes back to the cell he was in before. And it turns out Hyeob is with him in the same cell. And he asks him, do you want to fight me and take my place? Yu-Soo tells him, no, I'm not interested in fighting you. So Hyeob is surprised because this is opposite of John's words. And then the days pass until the fight date between Seung and Yu-Soo arrived. And Seung keeps waiting for Yu-Soo to appear, but a long time passes and he doesn't show up. So Seung calls him a coward. Hyeob responds to him and suggests to stop the fight because fighting doesn't bring peace, it brings injuries only, and we can't continue our lives as prisoners and just fight. But Seung doesn't care about his words at all. And then Yu-Soo arrives and everyone was anticipating this fight. And Seung attacks him quickly and was fast and strong and dominates Yu-Soo. And Yu-Soo couldn't land a single hit on him, and his attacks were very weak and ineffective. And Seung lifts him and throws him on the ground, but Yu-Soo gets up. And Seung gave him a strong kick and brought him to the ground again, and he thinks he finally won the fight. But Yu-Soo had a strong will and gets up again. And Seung tried to attack him, but Yu-Soo knocks him down and grabs his leg and hits him forcefully, and then he chokes him until he surrenders. And indeed, Seung couldn't withstand it and surrenders. And from then on, Yu-Soo becomes the strongest fighter in the prison, and Yu-Soo and Hyeob agree with Sung and John that they won't bully any prisoner anymore. And after they agree on that, peace settles on the prison, and all the prisoners who were enemies became friends. And Sung teaches Yu-Soo how to kick with his leg. And Hyun tells Yu-Soo, "The first time I saw you, I felt you were a different person, and you turned out to be an amazing person." On the other side, Dooney was training a new prisoner, but he would never forget Yu-Soo. And then Yu-Soo gets released from prison before his date because his behavior was good in prison. And before he leaves, he goes to look at the yard where he used to train with Dooney. And then he leaves the prison after his personality completely changed. But it turns out Chan was waiting for him outside. And without talking much, the fight between them begins. And Chan, who has bigger experience in battles, attacks fiercely with ferocity and strength. And he beats down on Yu-Soo. And he mocks Yu-Soo's mother and tells him, "She kept begging me to drop the case like a bitch." So Yu-Soo gets angry from this talk and hits him. But Chan controls the fight, and punch after punch brings him to the ground. And he covers Yu-Soo's face with the t-shirt and hit him repeatedly everywhere in his body, until Yu-Soo falls bleeding. And he remembers Dooney's words when he told him, "Be like a shark and don't stop." So he decides not to stop fighting and continues, and the two beat down on each other. And Yu-Soo uses the boxing techniques he learned from Dooney, and Chan gets very confused and couldn't hit Yu-Soo, and he swings in the air like a crazy person. And then Yu-Soo used Sing's kick and brought him to the ground, and Chan gets up shocked. He didn't expect Yu-Soo to be this strong. And the two were tired, and the fight isn't ending yet, and they keep exchanging hits. And whoever has bigger endurance ability is the one who will win. And Yu-Soo was still fighting with all his strength. And in the end, Chan surrenders. And Yu-Soo leaves him and walks away. And Chan feels defeat and couldn't imagine that he would be the losing side in this fight. And then Yu-Soo visits Dooney in prison. And the two are happy that they saw each other. And Yu-Soo jokes with him and tells him, "I went to the aquarium and found a sharkfish living and not moving much. And when it's sleeping, it doesn't move at all, even though you said it has to keep moving, or else it will die." Dooney told him, "Then it must have died," and the two laugh. And here we have reached the end of part 1. And wait for us for the rest of the story.